on.
Hello, we're back. Henrietta and Jeanette. We are doing a book club and we are continuing the beautiful visions of Catherine and Emmerich. She's blessed. And they have been approved by the church, so that's good. And we are just learning so much because yesterday was the Tower of Babel. A lot of information we didn't hear in the Bible front because she
I
gives us
forgot
a
to
little
post the
tidbits.
articles. I forgot to post the articles. I'll
It's
try to
okay.
remember today. We're
Yeah, you
so
can do it
busy.
later. Yeah, we're having a few really busy days lately.
Yeah. And this
So
we're only doing Derketo, and so it says here 10 pages on here. So you want to read the first 5 and I'll do the last 5? Or do you want me to do the first 5?
I don't know why you have 10 pages. I only have 3.
No. It says 10 on this because remember these words are
Oh,
bigger.
okay.
These words
Okay.
are bigger.
Okay.
So
We're starting on page 24 if you guys have the book. And yes, I will do 1 page and then I'll stop and then you can do
okay.
it. How's that?
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Durketo. Do you want to tell them real quick who Durketo was from yesterday? Because if they didn't see the book club yesterday.
He was the son of one of the builders of was it Semiramis?
Here, the very last, if you read the very last sentence or the couple of sentences from the last chapter, it'll tell us. There you go.
Okay, among his numerous, so Nimrod built Babylon, subject to the country around, and laid the foundation of the Babylonian Empire. Among his numerous children were Ninus and Derketo. The last mentioned was finally honored as a goddess. So when you hear it, you'll mostly hear, oh, it was just a goddess. No, it was a real person originally. They based it on one of his children. Nimrod, who we all he wanted to be real big and build the Babylon, so he wanted to be famous and he wanted
He
to
wanted to be
forever
known for his mastery in building
of
Babylon.
building to heaven
Yeah.
the thing. But guess what? It wasn't about God, so it was destroyed eventually. But we call dumb people Nimrod now. At least they do, like the construction workers that were my father and my ex-husband. So
You Nimrod,
yeah, you
Nimrod, or
Nimrod. Yeah, they call each
that's
other
funny.
names. You know how men are when they
Funny.
get together.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
get funny. But
Okay,
anyway, that
so
was one of his children.
you guys got an idea of Durko.
Yes.
Kind of sounds like Jerko, but it's Durko. Sorry, guys.
He's like his father. God forgive us.
Sorry, guys.
Anyway.
Okay. Sorry, Lord.
Oh, it's a woman. Go.
From Durko to Samarimas, I saw 3 generations of daughters. Durketo was a tall, powerful woman. I saw her clothed in skins with numerous straps of animals, tails hanging about her. Her head was covered by a cap made of feathers of birds. I saw her with a great train of followers, male and female, sallying forth from the neighborhood of Babylon. She was constantly in vision or engaged in prophesying, offering sacrifice, founding cities, or roving about. She and her followers drove before them scattered tribes with their herds prophesied on the subject of good dwelling places, piled up stones, some of which were immense, offered sacrifice, and practiced all kinds of wickedness. She drew all to herself. She was sometimes here, sometimes there. She was everywhere honored. She had in her old age a daughter who played a part similar to her own. I saw this vision in a plain, but by which was signified the origin of the abomination. Lastly, I saw Dorchetto as a frightful old woman in a city by the sea. She was again carrying on her sorcery by the seashore. She was in a state of diabolical ecstasy. and she was proclaiming to her people that she must die for them, give her life for them. She told them that she could remain with them no longer, but that she would be transformed into a fish, and as such be always near them. She gave direction for the worship to be paid her, and in presence of the assembled multitude, plunged into the sea. Soon after, a fish arose above the waves, and the people saluted it with sacrifices and abominations of all kinds. Their divinations were full of mysteries, signs, etc., connected with water. Through Derketos, instrumentally, and entire system of idolatry arose. I saw another woman, the daughter of Derketo. She appeared to me on a low mountain, which signified that her position was more powerful than that her mother. This was still in Nimrod's time, for they belonged to the same age. I saw this daughter leading a life even wilder and more violent than her mother's had been. She was engaged most of her time in hunting, attended by crowds and followers. She often went to a distance of 300 miles, pursued wild animals, offered sacrifice, practiced witchcraft, and prophesied. In this way, numerous places were founded and idolatrous worship established. I saw this woman fall into the sea while struggling with a hippopotamus. Her daughter Semiramis I saw upon a lofty mountain surrounded by all the kingdoms and treasures of the world, as if Satan were showing them to her, giving them to her. I saw that Semiramis put the finishing touch to every abomination of the Babylonian race. 10.
In the earliest times, sorry, I was too loud. In the earliest times, power over others was held more peaceably and was vested in many. Later on, unlimited jurisdiction was possessed by single individuals. These latter then became the leaders, the gods of their followers, and they formulated various systems of idolatrous worship, each according to his own ideas. They could also perform wonders of skill, valor, and invention, for they were full of the spirit of darkness. Thence arose whole tribes, first rulers and priests combined, later of priests alone. I have seen that in those days, women of this stamp were more numerous than men. They were all in interior communication, connected with one another by feelings, thoughts, and influence. Many things narrated of them are imperfect recitals of their ecstatic or mesmeric, or mesmeric expressions relative to themselves, their origins, their doings, uttered sometimes by themselves, at others by their devilish clairvoyance. The Jews also had many secret arts in Egypt, but Moses, the seer of God, rooted them out. Among the rabbis, however, many such things existed as points of learning. Later on, these secret arts became low, vulgar practices among wandering tribes, and they still exist in witchcraft and superstition, but they have all sprung up from the same tree of corruption, from the same low kingdom of darkness. I see the visions of all that engage in such practices, either just above or entirely under the earth. There is an element of the same magnetism. Water was held specially sacred by those early idolaters. It entered into all their service, whether divinations or ecstasies. They always began by gazing into water. They had ponds consecrated to that purpose. After some time, their ecstatic state became habitual, and even without the aid of water, they had their evil visions. I have seen the way in which they had those visions, and it was indeed singular. The whole earth with all that it contained seemed to be once more underwater, but veiled as a dark sphere. Tree tree stood under tree, mountain under mountain, water under water. I saw that those enchantresses beheld all that was going on, wars, nations, perils, etc., just as is done at the present day, only with this difference that the former put what they saw into effect, made good what they saw. Here was a nation to be subdued. Here one to be taken by surprise, there a city to be built. Here were famous men and women, and there was the plan by which they might be outwitted. In fine, every item of their diabolical worship was seen before reduced to practice by those females. Derketo saw in vision that she should cast herself into the sea and be transformed into a fish. And she hesitated not to carry into effect even the abominations practiced in their worship. All were mirrored in the water before they put them into execution. In the age in which Derketo's daughter lived, dikes and roads began to be constructed. She raided down into Egypt itself. Her whole life was one series of movings and hunting expeditions. Her adherents belonged to the tribe that had plundered Job in Arabia. The diabolical worship of Derketo's people became systemized first in Egypt. Here it took such a hold that while the witches sat in temples and in chambers on strange looking seats before various kinds of mirrors, their visions communicated while actually seen were reported by the priest to hundreds of men engraved upon the stone walls of caverns. Remember, we're in the time around the Babylonian uh, Empire and just after the the Tower of Babel and just after. That's where we're at in the Bible time periods. That's what Jeanette meant to say in the beginning. We are going through with her visions through each book of the Bible. So strange that I should see those abominable chief instruments of darkness always in unconscious communication with one another. I saw similar actions and things going on in different places around similar instruments of the evil one. The only difference among them was that which arose from diversity of manners and customs among the several nations and of different degrees of depravity into which they had fallen. Some had not as yet sunk so deep in these abominations and were not so far removed from the truth. Those, for instance, from whom the family of Abraham and races of Job and the three kings sprang, as also the star worshippers of Chaldea, and they that had the shining star. When Jesus Christ came upon earth, when the earth was soaked with his blood, the fierce influences of such practice was considerably diminished, and the witchcraft lost so much of its power. Moses was a seer from his cradle, but he was according to God, and he always practiced what he saw. Derketo, her daughter, and her granddaughter, Semiramis, lived to be very old according to the general age of that time. They were tall, powerful, mighty, such as would almost frighten us in our day. They were inconceivably bold, fierce, shameless, and they carried out with astonishing assurance whatever the evil one had shown them in vision. They felt their own power. They thought themselves divinities. They were facsimiles of those furious sorcerers in the high mountains that perished in the deluge. It is touching to see how the holy patriarchs, although they had frequent revelations from God, had nevertheless to suffer and struggle unremittingly in order to keep clear of the abominations that surrounded them. And again, it is affecting to remember in what secret, what painful ways salvation came upon the earth, what all while all went well with demonolatry, while all things were made to subserve its interests. When I saw this, the immense influence exercised by those goddesses and the high worship they received all over all the earth. And on the other side, when I contemplated Mary's little band with those symbolic picture in the cloud of Elias, the philosophers of Cyprus sought to couple their lying abominations. When I saw Jesus, the fulfillment of all promises, poor and patient, standing before them, teaching, and afterward going to meet his cross, ah, that made me inexpressibly sad. But after all, this is the history of the truth and the light ever shining in the darkness, and the darkness not comprehending it. And so as has and so it has been, and so it is still the same old story, even down to our day. But the mercy of God is infinite. I have seen that at the time of the deluge, many, very many, were saved from eternal punishment. Fright and anguish converted them to God. They went to purgatory, and Jesus freed them on the descent into hell. Numbers of trees escaped upon being uprooted by the waters of the deluge. I saw them thriving again, but most of them are covered, choked up by mud. So that's the reading for today. What were you going to say?
It wasn't very, very good. Very nice to listen to that, but I guess we have to
No,
listen to
no,
the
no, no,
bad for
no.
the.
It was very nice. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you look, this is people that are in such low energy fields that we all have a collective unconscious that we reach up into. She was talking about that. If you listen closely, see, I'm a big picture person and symbolic. So look at the symbols here. She was a fish. Jesus Christ, remember the fish. That's what who is the Protestants have the fish all over. There's a reason for that. It's the sacrifice, it's the fish. So what she's doing here is making herself the Christ. Even though Christ was not born yet,
Oh,
there's
wow.
yes, there's still that collective unconscious that they're pulling from. So, and I learned all this from my mom who studied Jungian, and I learned all this because of Carl Jung, a psychologist that he does the personality he went way back when. So what this is all about, so he teaches symbolism. So what this is all about, these scattered tribes, these are the 12 tribes. These what she's doing is making herself, and you see, practice all kinds of wickedness. She was not offering that to God. She drew it all. See what she says here? She drew it all to herself. She was sometimes here, sometimes there. She was trying to be omnipresent, like God is omnipresent. She was trying to be
Oh, okay.
God. Yes, that's what the devil said when he went to Eve. But you could be like God if you bite the apple. You see? So that's what this is all about. These visions are what people were doing. They were making themselves gods, just like they are today. These Hollywood stars are making themselves into idols so that everyone, what is it? The next American Idol, the singing idol that are singing, and we all watch the show and we can say who's better and who isn't and who's going to become a star. That's a little bit of idolatry. So we really have to be careful with that and stay focused on Christ. I'm not saying you can't enjoy music or shows. Go ahead.
I wanted to say that deluge means flood. I didn't know that, but we
Yes.
learned that
Yes. The
the
first. Yeah.
first reading that we had, I believe we talked about that, or
Yes.
the third, I can't remember.
Yes.
But
Yes.
anyway, so when we get those weird words, I don't know, maybe we should
We try to
think,
stop
yeah, and
and
try
define
to
them. Define
find,
them.
yeah. But
And then here,
deluge was another word for
flood.
flood, and no is another word for Noah, is another name for Noah, Noe.
And their idolatry was all about water. That's why Jeanette is bringing that up. And you see how they plunged into the sea. This is all about water. That's why she's bringing that up. Their sacrifices. And what are we at? Baptized. They were baptizing their people to worship them. And so their divinations were full of mysteries, like we do the mysteries of the rosary. They had their own mysteries and signs connected with the water. That's why she brought that up. Durko's instrumentality, an entire system of idolatry rose. Do you see how it's connected to God? What they're really looking for in these people is God. And so they come to these people that make themselves idols. They want to harness the power of God. They want to take those people and take their energy. So they make themselves into the idolater, and they make the projection that those people will do, that they're really seeking God. People that come for witchcraft, they don't realize, but they're not seeking their own power. What they're really seeking is the power of God. And so what they do is look for that. Yes. Yeah, we
No,
have
I
a lot.
just tomorrow we are going to, I guess, learn about Semiramis.
Semiramis. But
Semiramis.
let's just
So
look
it's
through
gonna be
this.
another crazy person.
No, 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 no. This is not crazy. Okay, so I'm just going through this
I
real quick.
know.
But see these these tribes that she talks about, same thing. That's all they're doing is projecting. They're all really looking for God and these devilish things. So just look at that. These early idolaters, the waters, the ponds. They look in there to meditate. We can do that with the rosary. That's what they're looking for, God. Okay, so the vision, she cast herself into sea, transformed into a fish. That's what it's all about. Okay, Job, you see where she brings Job and the priests, they're making their own priests into what we should be seeing our priests. And then if you notice, they're keto. This is the last thing I'm going to say, Jeanette, and then we're done. The family of Abraham, that the same thing that she's talking about, their keto and their grandmother and their granddaughter. When we have curses in our families, some of the people you meet, especially the tall ones, they could be coming from this family. And that's why when we do the breaking of the curses, when we go to priests that break the generational curses, you could have been coming back from this time that carries through generations, that teach people, for people that are putting the selfies and it's all about me, and they may be transcendents or descendants from these people. So that's why we need those curses lifted when we go for prayers with the
Not
priest.
all people that do selfies are like that. I mean, I do selfies.
I'm not saying that. I'm talking
Oh,
about the
okay.
people.
I was
All right,
gonna
I'm
say,
sorry. Let me
I was
clarify. You're
gonna say,
right.
it's
No, 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 you're
okay.
right.
I mean, I do selfies.
No, 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 where you're right. Because what we're
Okay.
trying to do is help you know us
Just
so we
saying.
can lead you to Jesus. But there are
Yeah.
people like Kim Kardashian that get up there and she has 350 million, more than the entire population of the United States, that follow her, and she is having them adore her instead of adore Christ. But what Jeanette and I are doing when we're doing our selfies and when we're talking about ourselves, it's to lead you to Jesus. We're not making it about us. We may talk about ourselves, but only so we can help you transform your stories and project your stories onto the story of Christ in our family stories. That's the difference. In idolatry is Kim Kardashian. It's all about her and her family's money and greed and all that. What we're trying to do is lead you to Christ. That's what all this is about. So when we start tomorrow, we're going to be starting with another generation of Durkido. Just so you know, it's not craziness. It's bringing us into the books of the Bible. That's what Jeanette will say the next beginning. She'll remind us that, or she can ask me to say that. That's what I want. That's why I want to do.
Oh, look, and she was
And
born in Nineveh. Isn't
there
that
you
where
go.
Jonah's from, and why God
Yep.
sent Jonah to tell him to behave and to stop sinning?
Yep. And
Nineveh.
the water, and he goes into the whale.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. This is
Okay.
all related.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
gonna start
guys?
seeing names now of
Yes, that we
places and yeah,
recognize.
that we recognize.
So we will
Okay.
see you all tomorrow. Bye.
Bye, guys. Have a blessed day.